Hello and welcome to this podcast. And today I am delighted to be chatting with Hannah Wilson. So I met Hannah through Instagram. So Hannah has been following what the Mindful Clinic has been doing and has been engaging really positively with a lot of what I've been posting. And I'm so delighted that she's agreed to come on and talk about herself and her relationship with food and where she's come from and where she's at now. So a little bit more about that in a moment, but first, welcome, Hannah.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to tell everybody just a little bit about yourself personally?
Hi, so I'm Hannah, and so I'm living in Hull at the moment, but I'm originally from Mid Wales, and it was university that brought me here, and I fell in love with the city, and that was like 10 years ago. So that's me.
Been there ever since. And are you working at the moment, Hannah?
Yes, I'm a library assistant in a branch library for Hull Libraries. And I fell into that job, but I absolutely love it and can't imagine doing anything else.
It's quite interesting how we sometimes tumble into things by accident, isn't it, in our
Yeah,
in
yeah,
our working life. Oh,
yeah.
lovely. Well, as I said earlier, thank you so much for joining me. And so I think what would be really interesting is if you can tell everyone something about how you first got onto the dieting process, the journey, what actually happened, and how that started for you.
So I'm thinking it was probably about 2014-15 that I felt really uncomfortable with my weight and how I looked, and colleagues around me were disappearing, and I was like, what's your secret, and they mentioned Slimming World, and I hadn't heard of Slimming World before that, but they slowly introduced me on how much you can eat, and like they were eating really healthy things. And I wouldn't say that I was unhealthy when I felt bigger, but I had gone through university, and so there was lots of like partying, and not that I'm not a party. I don't drink alcohol, but I would have the burger afterwards, with everyone else. And I think that I didn't really have confidence in cooking, so it was a lot of convenient sort of food.
Can I just ask you a question about what was the trigger to actually feel uncomfortable with your weight and how you looked? Do you know where that came from?
I don't know, but I've always I just I don't I don't know. I mean, I am a performer, and I think that within that industry, it is quite based on looks, and you want the parts, and you want to look a certain way, and maybe that kind of pressure. But I don't actually know. I just know that I am I have such a strong sweet tooth, and when I left home, I had the freedom of pop into the shop and, oh look, there's a reduced cheesecake, and I love a bargain, and
And a
so I
cheesecake.
and a cheesecake. And so I'd start eating these things, and there was always this habit again from university of like having cups of tea at midnight with a biscuit and that kind of thing. And so yeah, it was my colleagues and people around me that sort of introduced me into Slimming World. And then I went to the doctor for a pill check, just a usual thing. And she said to me, the nurse, you have to get weighed. I didn't know my weight. I would never weigh myself. I don't remember weighing myself at all when I was a teenager and young adult. But at the doctor's, you do get weighed. And she was like, "Oh, you've put a stone on in 6 months from your last check." And I sort of said, "Oh gosh, is that bad?" Like, and she was like, "Oh, well, you are at the high end of your BMI." Well, hearing that freaked me out, because
Yes.
I am very health conscious, and health anxiety. I don't want to get diabetes. I don't, and all this, how it scares you, like if you're overweight, kind of thing. And so I thought, right, well, to be fair, it was January that she weighed me. So I just thought, well, Christmas back in those days would start in December, and I'd just eat and eat whatever, at Christmas, and enjoy it. And so I felt like it was a bit unfair to get weighed in January. And so I knew my weight in January, and it wasn't until February that I decided to walk through Slimming World's doors. And
so
within
that
that time,
sorry, Hannah, I was just going to say, so that conversation with that nurse was really created this situation where you were quite terrified, and I imagine from what you're saying, that you felt like you needed to fix it quite quickly, that even though you were quite young and the potential health complications are something that comes on a little bit later, you had this sense of urgency about it.
I was about 25, 26. So I'm 30 now, by the way. And gosh, that doesn't I'm not used to saying that. I did have this sense of, wow, I really need to sort something out, because I don't want to be at the top end of my BMI and have all these higher risks. And it just sort of confirmed that I was feeling uncomfortable. However, a lot of people did say, "Oh, Hannah, I never thought you were particularly big." I am an hourglass shape, and sort of carried it well, I suppose. But I knew in myself that I felt uncomfortable, and I wanted to change. And again, being influenced by people around me, I could see how much they were eating. Like, it didn't feel like a diet. And so that was February 2016 that I walked into Slimming World door, and I loved it from the get-go.
What about it did you love?
I think it was all the free foods, and like I said, it didn't feel like a diet. I was eating regular foods. There was no when I think of diets, I think of really restrictive, like smoothies or teas and all that. And I can't believe that they actually exist, and people do that, because like, I love food, and I loved how Slimming World is based around nutritious foods, and you can still have your treats or whatever you call them, but in a limited way. And so I felt that I was still having my chocolate, I was still having my puddings, but I was making them in like a healthier way. So I discovered baked oats, which I absolutely love, and all these sort of desserts that were slimming friendly. And so I felt like I wasn't really missing out, because I was making these desserts and enjoying them. And I would never eat anything that I didn't enjoy. Like, I will push that, like, I'm not going to be forced fed salad, I'm not like that, just to be healthy, so
And of course, if we do that, because if you crave a particular food, I think I mentioned it on a podcast I did with someone the other day. I did, didn't I? I said, no amount of lettuce will satisfy you if what you really want is macaroni cheese. And it's exactly that, isn't it?
Yeah. and thinking what I did, like we weren't particularly unhealthy. I'm not craving that sort of beef burgers and chips all the time. So it was just a few chop and changes, with, like, I did start off with fry light and that kind of thing with cooking. And so, yeah, I just felt satisfied for the time being.
Do you think that
And
the framework and the structure was a positive thing for you?
yes, yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand the 1/3 speed, like you take away, say you've got like a bowl of pasta, then you would have a smaller amount of pasta and have the salad on the side, but you wouldn't just have, like, like some people will be like, oh yes, I've got my third speed in my pudding afterwards, and it just doesn't work like that. And there are, I know that a lot of people kind of get it wrong, and that's why it doesn't necessarily work for them as well. So but no, I do own a lot to Slimming World because they really helped me learn to cook, lots of simple recipes. I am very blessed that my partner cooks a lot of food, and he is really supportive as well. But we have chopped and changed a lot over the years to be able to maintain it. For example, like, we use spray oil, we don't use fry light anymore. And things like that,
because I think often when you start off, we migrate towards those dieting products, don't we, that are not necessarily as good for us as if we have the real thing, So if you're having olive oil, you're getting your and the other oils, you're getting your monounsaturated and your polyunsaturated fats, which are really important. And there's something about diet products that have been through some kind of process in order for them to be diet products. And actually, if you can eat as close to the real thing as you can, it's going to be nutritionally better for you.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm learning, and that's what I want, to not be fearful of fats. And I really want to try like almond butter and things like that, and really healthy fats. And I'm starting, the more I research and find people like yourself, I'm learning that, you don't have to fear fat in your food. You don't have to, be scared. That is not what's going to make you fat. It's it's overeating, and overeating anything. Food is food. And it's taken a long time for me to realize this, but I'm very excited for where I'm going in my journey.
Oh, good. So let me just go back a couple of steps. So there are two things that I want. So I want to ask about where that fear of fat came from, and then also what is it about a mindful eating rather than a Slimming World approach that you think is more where you want to be? So firstly, where do you think the fat fear came from?
I think that's probably from Slimming World. Slimming World is a low-fat diet, and so it does encourage you to take the batter off the fish, don't eat the chicken skin, and take the fat off the bacon and that kind of thing. And really, I'm learning that sometimes, those little bits of fat are actually what makes a meal really satisfying, and that it is okay to have the fat off on the bacon, and it's not going to make a massive difference at the end of the day as well.
Yes, I always remember when I first got with my husband. It was about, I don't know, 20 odd years ago, and I was, of course, at that time caught up in my disordered eating, and I was buying fat-free everything, and he started calling it taste-free food, rather than fat-free. Yeah. He said, "Oh, we don't have to have the taste-free option, do we, tonight?" So I think there is a lot to be said for that. And I think that, part of the mindful eating approach is to say, have the best quality, the best tasting you can, because that's going to satisfy you. And the chances are that particularly if it's fat, it's more unctuous and it's more satisfying, and you can have less of it, particularly if you eat it slowly and you absolutely love it and you savor it. You're not going to want loads. Whereas if you have a taste-free, fat-free version, that's unlikely to satisfy, all those tastes that you're looking for.
And the more, because I would be in denial and be like, I don't like the chicken skin, I don't need it, and actually I do find myself picking at it, and I just think I almost get this rush, of like, oh, it's forbidden food, so I've got to eat it now, kind of thing, and I'm slowly letting that go now. And
well done, because I think that's often a spin-off, isn't it, from the dieting thinking, that we are scared of food. And of course, underneath all of this mindful and intuitive approach, we have to be mindful, aware of saturated fat and having a balance. But to be looking at a piece of chicken skin and to fear it, and to worry about the fact that then if you get on the scales in the morning, it's going to that one food has put weight on, is a really painful and difficult thing for lots of people, but it's very, very real, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm actually learning more and more that fats in foods are beneficial, and like, you do need fat in your diet to maintain a healthy digestive system. And
you absolutely need good fats, yeah. And I think, isn't an avocado on Slimming World is quite a few sins, isn't it, because of
it's like 9 sins or something or other. I mean, I've let go of that food rule for a while now, and if there's avocado on my breakfast when we could go out, then I'll eat it, but I do remember before Slimming World and trying to eat healthy, I did used to have like a whole avocado on some granary bread, and and then going to Slimming World, I was like, oh my goodness, what on earth was I thinking, but now I'm sort of reverting back that yes, in fact, we've got an avocado in our meal plan this week, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. So
fantastic. Yeah. And I think we still have to think about portion control, because fat is fat,
and calories are calories.
And it's 9 calories a gram, if you want to get clinical about it. So it's very calorie dense, but some of it is absolutely essential, and it's about choosing which fats you have.
But also, like, having fats in your meal help you keep fuller for longer and satisfied. So
absolutely, yeah.
Like, I think I think a lot of my distorted eating is from fearing fat a lot.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that you're now embracing the good fats, and that you've been able to let go some of those thoughts attached to how foods are labeled within the dieting industry as good or bad, or potentially where your fat's going to come from, your physical fat and your weight gain, because I think that's a very important step to experiencing this empowerment that comes from food freedom, where you've got the nutritional awareness to understand what a food is going to give you, and why you should eat it, and the fact that it is okay. And in fact, it's okay to eat any food. That's the whole thing. It is absolutely fine. No food is off limits. We just need to be mindful of what our nutritional balance is. And I think what I'm sort of picking up is that your dieting journey has been a sort of a twofold experience, really, in that some of the dieting mentality, it has been perhaps not so positive in terms of how you view food, but what it has done is that it's given you some nutritional awareness.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
And
so I think you were going to go on to say about this in this current situation that you're in and your next stage in terms of feeling more free
yeah,
about food, and how the mindful eating approach has really resonated with you as part of that transition. Do you want to tell us a
yeah.
little bit about that?
So slowly over the years, I've been moving further and further away from Slimming World. And actually, it was February 2019 that I actually stepped away from group and weighing myself. And that has been so liberating. Like, I don't know what I weigh. I don't care for the number. I just go by with how I'm feeling. And then 2020, I've really worked on my relationship with food. And I can't remember when I discovered you. And I think it was like a suggested post or something. But everything, your articles and now podcasts are so inspiring. And yeah, this Christmas, I mean, I was more mindful last Christmas as well, because I have had Christmases where I would just eat chocolate for the sake of it because I was off plan. And I've moved away from that mentality as well, of this off plan, on plan. I hate that term at all, because food is food, and whether you're up on sins or whatever, it's that mentality that can really make like binging habits happen. And I've never had a problem with, say, binging as such, but I know that from years of um with my Slimming World, there was this sense of urgency. Oh, I'm off plan, so I can, have this chocolate kind of thing. And so it's kind of created that kind of thing as well. So I've managed to knock that on the head with this, like moving away from on plan and off plan. If I want something, I will have it. And then the next step is now, do I really want it? Is my body calling for it? Or am I just thinking that I want it because I can have it? And um, I have to say, mindful and the intuitive eating approach has been confusing, because, you can have that piece of chocolate, but does your body, is it really hungry for it? But it doesn't matter if it's hungry for it, you can still have that piece of chocolate. And so, that's where you've got to get rid of this whole dieting mentality. And
Yes, and
yeah,
I think you're right that for a lot of people, when they read the principles, they'll ask questions like, well, how can that possibly work if I can just eat anything I want?
yeah,
And what if I'm not actually restricted, or if I'm not told what to eat, how can I be sure that I'm doing it right? And again, that comes from having been on diets and having been given plans and things. And I think you're right that it does take a while, I think, to trust that we've
yeah,
got all those innate skills to actually eat normally, inverted commas, but to eat in a non-disordered way, in an ordered way, according to what we actually need.
yeah,
And of course, sometimes we experience emotional eating, and the right thing for us is to have something to eat at that time. But it's about looking at what's driving that eating, what the emotion is, where it's coming from, and actually being guided to go through that mental process that actually says, right, what's the stimulus? Let's breathe, let's think about it, and let's decide actually what the best way to respond to that stimulus is. And having a toolbox of different activities that you can do in response to that particular emotion, because I think lots of people use food, don't they, to put those emotions to one side, or to fill a gap. But then, of course, once you've stopped eating, you've still got the gap. So whereas, if you do something a little bit more constructive, the chances are that you can actually gain a huge amount more, whether you make something, or you go for a walk, or you exercise, or, there's a whole range of things that people can do. But I think it sounds like what you're managing to do really well is to now create your own framework of how you eat and how you respond to your cues. And it's just a question really now of tapping into identifying what that hunger is, whether it's emotional, whether it's because you haven't eaten for a while and therefore you've got a definite physical need to eat, whether you're tired, whether you're bored, you know, all of those other hungers, which I know that you've referred to in my, and I've got what have I got? I've got a blog article, haven't I, and a video and a podcast or something on the
yeah.
But anyway, you know, it sounds like you've been on a really informative and, you know, quite life-changing process with it, really, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so. And it was 2018 I introduced the gym as well. And I found a love of exercise, and I never thought that I would love it as much as I do. And it's gymophobics. It's a women's only gym, and it's weighted resistant machines. So it only takes half an hour, 3 minutes on each machine. And it's changed my body. It's changed so much confidence, and I just love it, and I'm missing it so much now with lockdown.
Yes, yeah,
but it'll be there when life gets back to normal, and that's what I keep telling myself. And I keep up with home workouts, but I'm also, again, with this mindful approach, if I don't feel like a workout, if I don't want to move my body, if I feel like I need to in a sort of diet mentality, then I'm being kinder to myself as well. Because the first lockdown, I exercised every day, and it just made it a chore. And I don't agree that movement should be like that. You should enjoy it and move to feel good and not to lose weight.
Yes,
as such.
Exactly. Yes. It's that repositioning, isn't it, that actually exercise is done because it's good for your body, rather than I had an extra piece of cake yesterday, therefore I need to go to the gym, or I need to do another workout. And I think, you know, that's perhaps another whole podcast, but, you know, that's a very real issue for lots of people, that they feel that if they eat one of these so-called bad foods, or if they eat a few more calories than they did the day before, that they then have to burn it off. But of course, from an intuitive approach, we will be more hungry on some days than we are on others. And that's just how the body works. You know, it's not a robot. It's a machine that is susceptible to what it's had to do the day before, how much energy we have needed, etc., what's going on in our bodies hormonally. And so so that's why, you know, tapping into this instinctive innate hunger cue means that we're listening to what our bodies need. And, you know, this body is incredibly clever, that actually, that's what I say to some of my clients when they say, well, won't I just want to eat chocolate all the time? Well, actually, no, because once you know that you're allowed it, you don't want it as much, because it's not forbidden. And also, the body actually, if you give it a chance, will start to give you different messages, and you start craving other food, because the body doesn't really want to live off Mars bars. It really doesn't, you know. It wants better quality nutrition, and it will start telling you, but you have to give it a chance. You have to sort of, you know, bring it back to its natural state, which can take a while sometimes, and then it sends you all the right cues, doesn't it, which now, you know, you are starting to get. So you're not, so it's starting to come more sort of unconsciously, rather than you consciously telling yourself, right, what am I going to have today? You're starting more to think, what do I fancy? And that's a wider range of foods and a wider range of nutrition, because you're allowed it. And if it's an avocado, great, it's an avocado.
Well, one step that I'm really excited about is we started using the Morrison's Eat Fresh meal kit. And my partner was like, well, I we're not going to do this if you're going to be sinning this and that, and like being controlling with it,
as in SYN. Yes.
yeah. And I thought, no, he's right. Like these meal kits look absolutely delicious, like all our kind of foods anyway. But it's that control that I always have over meal times, and that I want to let go of. And so I feel like we had one last night, and it was teriyaki chicken, and it was absolutely beautiful. The plate was so colourful, and
eat the rainbow.
And I didn't sin it or point it or anything, and it felt so liberating. And I even had a pudding afterwards, and because I was wanting it rather than feeling like I needed it, because that's where I want to improve my relationship with eating, is because I used to split my healthy extra. So I was always eating my baked oats or my bread and butter pudding, and I would always save it for the night time, because I would always think that that's when I want something sweet. But actually listening to my body now, sometimes I'm really satisfied after my meal and I don't need anything sweet. I think that maybe in my teenage years, and I grew up with having pudding after every meal, that it's become a habit. And again, during lockdown and not doing my hobbies anymore, because we can't, I'm in a theatre company, and so I've turned to creating all these fancy desserts that, I love, but actually listening to my body. I'm going to bed super full and uncomfortable, actually. And so, I don't actually need all the sweet things that I think that I need. And so that's really interesting to me, that so I swapped it for like a hot chocolate or like a sweet drink, just to curb that sweetness, but not having, even though it was all on plan, and that kind of like my healthy extras, but I was forcing myself to eat it.
Yes.
Because it made the circle of the Slimming World plan, if you see what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm saying on plan, but I don't like saying that word. But I wouldn't feel complete unless I had my hi-fi bar in the evening. And actually, I want to branch out of that completely, because it is a processed chocolate bar, and there are a lot more nutritious foods out there that could be like your fiber intake or whatever.
Have a banana, I mean, it's
yes. And oh gosh, there was a few years ago that I was scared of bananas, so I've come a long way, and I've
really come a long way. But it is really interesting, isn't it, how when we're on a diet plan, we feel like we have to obey. All the power is in the plan. So much so that it can dictate to us to eat when we really don't want to eat. And if you stand back from that, you say, well, what is that about? Why it doesn't really make any sense. But I absolutely understand, because as you know, I spent years in the same place. Absolutely understand that the plans just give us this sense of security, and they promise us loads, don't they? And so we feel that if we don't do everything that it says, then actually we're the failure, and that means that we're not going to lose the weight, and that means we haven't done it properly. And there are all those feelings that build up in us. I can see that you're nodding, because I can see you, although our listeners sadly can't, but you're nodding.
That's exactly it. I would get this anxious feeling that, I still need to have my healthy extra, because you know, I've only had half this morning, you know, I've got to have it. And then I was actually going against what my body was saying. And so I'd go to bed really full. And, you know, I've even woken up with stomach problems, you know, in the night because my body's just taken far too much fiber sort of late at night before bedtime, and it's just not great. So um, that's one thing that I'm really wanting to work on,
Yes.
or have been working on, I should say.
Yes, you
Um,
have. You have, definitely.
so
Certainly.
I do think that my mind has sort of given myself all these food rules as well, and that, you know, there are some people who breeze through it, who are quite happy to be on Slimming World for life.
Mm.
And but I definitely, for the past, I'd say about three to 2 years, I've done my own version. I
Mm.
um sin raisins. You know, I don't weigh my milk out, you know, and I just feel like life is far too short to be doing all that when it's healthy for you. And I enjoy it, and I'm not going to deny myself a cup of tea. I mean, it's just so sad.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so
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 you
I am
have, as you say, come a very, very long way. And so
absolutely.
what would you like to change in the future? What do you think your ideal behavior around food looks like for you? What would you like to?
I think my next step now is sort of breaking food rules with, say, like my partner bakes the most beautiful bread, and you know, I'll always have like the crust of it, but like to actually have that for breakfast or something at the weekend and enjoy it fully without restricting
Mm.
would be my ideal.
Mm.
Um, and, you know, we're off next week, and I've said to him, like, let's have a wine and cheese night. You know, we've still got crackers from Christmas, we've still got a load of cheese from Christmas. We can buy some more brie and just enjoy it. And it was things like that that I was missing out on, because it was too indulgent and extravagant, and now we used to do that all the time. And so it's just bringing things like that back. And, you know,
Yes. And
uh,
feeling more relaxed about those choices, you know.
yes.
Yes, absolutely. And if you know that you can have it, it's not you that whole sort of desperate craving tends to go away. And it's important to have indulgent moments with food, you know. It should be a joy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Like
absolutely.
he makes again like beautiful pizzas. Like I'll always, you know, oh, you have that, and I'll have something else, you know. But I've said to him like, let's have pizza, and I will have a full pizza, and you know, and really enjoy it. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Yes. Well, cheese and wine. Yes, that is and nice crispy crackers. Yes, you've
Yeah.
got my mouth watering now. Yes. Um, well, excellent. I mean, I think, you know, it's been a really, really excellent chat to be able to hear more about your experiences, and I'm sure that it's been helpful for other people as well. So I just want to thank you very much for joining us today, and I will put your Instagram account on the bottom, so if people want to follow the food and the things that you make and you enjoy, then they can do that, can't they, Hannah?
Oh, thank you very much.
And just on the bread thing, it's just come to mind. You know, I would just introduce it bit by bit. So just maybe say tomorrow, I'm going to have
Yeah,
half a slice and really, really love it. And do the same thing that you've done with other foods, you know, then just let it go and then move on and then have it. And then when you next fancy it, do the same thing again. And then perhaps build up to having a full slice. And then eventually, you know, like with all these habits and behaviors, when we start to break them down and we start to change them bit by bit, they then become second nature. And it doesn't mean that you're then going to eat a whole loaf, because you're tapped into your hunger and you're looking at having as broader a food day as you can, you know that within that day, 1 or 2 slices can feature perfectly well. And then the rest of the time, you're going to eat other things. So as with all of this stuff, little steps. So half as possible, and enjoy it.
Thank you.
So I wish you a really, really good day. Thank you very much again, Hannah Wilson.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.